You're listening to the 4-Phase Cycle Podcast with your hosts, Dr. Alex and Megan of ZESTY Ginger. If you're looking to naturally balance hormones and learn how to work with your body instead of against it, you've definitely come to the right place. As a duo of an integrative MD and a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and best friends, we use the 4 phases of the female cycle in combination with functional lab work and mindset practices to transform the lives of the women we work with.
We also have a whole lot of fun along the way. If you're new around here, it's best to start with season 1 before jumping around and plan to roll up your sleeves. Showing up for ourselves and enjoying our lives is what good health is all about. Just a quick reminder though, this information is not intended to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor before making changes.
Hello, lovely souls. Alex here. It is day 15 of our Flowing with Your Cycle series. Thank you so much for joining me again. Love having you here. So day 15, we have now crossed into the second half of the cycle. That's made up by phases 3 and 4. And just as a reminder, if you are popping into kind of the middle of this and you're new to Flowing with Your Cycle, there's also season 1, which is just the nuts and bolts of how to break things down, what we're doing at each time, right? So that all exists. So check that out if that's where you are. Otherwise, welcome. Don't forget also about the companion guide. That's zestyginger.com/flow. It's going to help you make everything super concretized for you and your life and what is going on. All right, so day 15, we are now in the phase 3, which starts after we've ovulated. And this is the transition point from focusing on inflammation and supporting inflammation in the body to supporting detoxification. So from kind of the nuts and bolts aspect of the cycle, that is the general flow. And as you can imagine, as the body begins to work on something in a different way and deal with a whole host of other activities, for example, now we're making hormones in consistently larger quantities, and they have to get broken down appropriately. However they were set up, though, the second half of the cycle experience is completely dictated by what came before. That's why this is a process of success begets success. So every time you set yourself up for the next phase, that sets you up for the phase after that. And that's why we refer to all of this as, you're either on the upward spiral or the downward spiral. And most of us, when it's unconscious, just kind of go up for a while, go down for a while, go up for a while. And you've probably had this, right? Where you're like, things are going great. Oh no, there we go. We're spotting again. Or, oh no, yep, there's that PMS again. Right? All of that kind of stuff. Or I had my period for 3 months. Now it's a no-show again. So all of that is generally happening when there are imbalances and we're not working with our own physiology and the larger scope of who we are. And, by following what the body is already doing, which in this case is going to be breaking down the hormones that have been created, appropriately getting them out of the body, are the things that stave off PMS, acne, mood swings, irritability, heavy flow the next time you get your period, all of that, right? So that goes hand in hand. So day 15, what are we going to be talking about today? So today we are going to be talking about follow-up. So this is right on the heels of phase 2, and that was all about figuring out from the vision or visions that you set in phase 1, what were going to be the needle moving action steps, because phase 2 became much more outwardly focused. Phase 3 is also outwardly focused in that we are primed to take action. However, the flavor is different because instead of doing the scary things that there's going to be a handful for, there's also a time and a place for action that is kind of the follow-up to the big things, right? You can launch a podcast in phase 2. But the truth of the matter is that then you have to keep creating podcast episodes like yours truly here. And so from that standpoint, there has to be a way to also then transition to doing the less scary stuff, but also potentially the less sexy stuff that sometimes falls by the wayside, because we can get really, really jazzed about a new way of eating, a new way of moving, a new way of communicating with our kids. I'm not going to yell anymore. And then after that, there's kind of the fallout if we don't appropriately pay attention to opportunities to really set things up for ourselves so that we can have continued success, right? So this is focused on these smaller item steps that will continue to move your big ideas forward, right? And that's cool because a lot of times that communicates to our brain a whole different message than I got geared up to do something scary. It was really big, and now I kind of, what next? This is up front, you're going to do the thing, and then you're going to follow through with the things that needs to happen, right? So this can look like, all right, so you gear up for a new way of eating in phase 2. You get everything set up, you buy the equipment, right? All of that happens. And then phase 3, I'm just literally spitballing because it can look like any number of ways for you, but, printing off meal planning outlines, putting them in a binder. Next time when, phase 4 hits and it's back to more of an internal state, the binder's all ready. Right? It's a no-brainer. I know exactly what I'm getting. This has my shopping list inside. I just have to pick my proteins and which carbs and veggies I want, or whatever, like whatever it is that you picked, right? Whatever makes it easy to then continue on with that stuff. Now, in phase 4, there's going to actually be even kind of a component of tweaking and finding more of a balance, but we're getting there, right? This is where the follow through happens. Usually we're still, energetic. We're a little jazzed from doing something that we're like, I know this is big. I know that this will move me forward. And then with the momentum of that, this is where setting yourself up for that success is really, really exciting and gratifying, right? Because what we're all going for is ultimately the results, but also ease and flow on the journey there, right? So without that, we can get really excited, and then because we don't set ourselves up for the navigation to the outcome, then we never get to the outcome, and then we feel defeated. So this is all kind of, in my mind, the antidote to disappointment for yourself, because that kills a lot more of our hopes and dreams and kind of reaffirms our beliefs of, oh, I never change, nothing ever works for me, right? The things that we tend to think about when we bring a more conscious approach to the journey and actually making sure we're thinking ahead. How do I navigate the journey onto there? Not just black and white. I have the thing or I don't have the thing. Now we can start to look at it as 3. I don't have the thing. I realize I want it. I'm on my way to the thing. What do I have to do to set myself up for success and help myself navigate it so I don't get disappointed? And now I have the thing, right? So this is the interplay of that. So the question today, then, one of the main questions becomes, what would I set up for myself that it would be easier for me to follow through on the things that I set were really important to me? And that's a really kind of interesting question to begin to ask ourselves, because then we start to see, what do we need to do to really have the setup for ease, right? This is not asking, oh, what's the right thing to do? What is the perfect way to do it? This is just asking, from where I want to go, how do I make it as easy and as much of a no-brainer as possible? And one of the easiest ways to think about this is the concept of micro habits. Right? So the example that a lot of people use for micro habits is going to the gym, right? Going to the gym is the outcome that we want. That's the habit we want to establish. But, you know, virtually raise your hand if you've had, you want to work out more, and then you're like, oh, work ran late, this happened, I forgot my gym bag, or I don't have a gym bag, I have to go back home, pick up my clothes, oh shoot, that bra that I wanted to wear is actually in the laundry, now I have to go look for another one, right? You've probably had this in some example. It could be literally anything you want to start. You also probably had the opposite where you're like, I want to stop drinking coffee, and then you go downstairs and there's coffee, and you're like, yeah, I'll start tomorrow, right? So with that, micro habits then become, what are the smaller steps that get you successfully to the gym? What needs to happen on the pre-gym going phase that will make it a no-brainer for you? So sometimes that includes things like packing the gym bag, packing the snacks for after work, and putting them in the trunk of your car, and now you're ready to go immediately after work or before work or whatever you got, right? That can be, you want to go for a run, the shoes are by the door, the workout clothes are by the bed, that's what's happening. Or it can be, I want to eat less sweets at night, right? That is, can you move the sweets to a different location where it interrupts the habitual reaching for it? This is why when I want to have a habit like I want to read more rather than scrolling on social media, I will actually shuffle my the app icons on my phone so that it interrupts. It's like the micro habit of, oh, now I have to pause for a second and make a more conscious decision. So it can be, things you do for that, or kind of the interruption of it, which is, I'm realizing now, probably not a micro habit, but I think it's helpful to have a couple different variations, because I imagine a lot of you will have very different goals that it applies to. So those small things, what is it that you need? Now, this is not, again, the steps for follow-up and follow-through will be completely dependent on the way that you work best and the way that you operate and the things that personally get in your way, right? So for the follow-up, let's say Megan and I reached out to someone with a large, audience, and we're building a relationship with them. Right? We reach out, make a pitch. We want to be on your podcast. We want to talk about this or whatever it is. So we make that. Now, we want to keep doing that in the future. In phase 3, this is, how do we write out a proposal to be on someone's podcast? That's the skeleton outline. And we then, for each follow-up, every time we want to do this, there's an area to customize it, of course. In that scenario, we would want to do that. But the template is already created for us. So now that's one less step that we have to worry about, or that can get in our way, right? We've already done the work. Now it becomes, how do you make it so that next time it's easier for yourself, right? This can be, I already used the starting a podcast thing. It can be like creating a course, right? When Megan and I do this stuff, phase 1 is for creating the outline. Right? That's the bigger picture assessment of where we want to go. Phase 2 is then what needs to happen that would allow the program to start being a reality in life, right? We may create the back end of things. We may put together, video teachings or modules or something like that, something very high energy. I mean, anytime you're in a course and you see them creating video modules, that represents hours and hours and hours of time and effort, right? So that is the kind of stuff that we would do in phase 2. Phase 3 are all the things that are smaller output, maybe less energy, but still need to happen, right? The emails need to get loaded. The thank you page needs to get made, right? All of the things that are just also on the menu, but are supportive of the bigger picture. And then in that process, a lot of times, especially if you realize how you work, then you can start setting yourself up for success on, okay, this is the approach that I took for the follow through on this project or this part of my life. What were the success strategies here? What worked for me? And something that can work for me in my business maybe can also work for me in the way that I want to eat. Right? So that now you're starting to see your own success strategies that you really jive with, that work for you, that you can apply laterally to all parts of your life. So even though you may be focusing in this one cycle on this one part of your life, right? Depending on what you have going on, it is always a process of gathering data as long as we are conscientiously approaching that. Okay? So this stuff, super duper fun actually, because it turns potentially mundane activities that we're like, oh, I guess I have to load those emails. Like, oh, I guess I'll put together meal prep. Then we can say, ooh, I'm learning something about myself. This is, my trial of what will work for me, what really allows me to keep going in a successful way, despite the bumps in the road that will inevitably happen, right? That's life. And that's why when we set things up and we do it cycle after cycle after cycle after cycle, there's going to be a ton of information about you, for you, to use in other areas of your life. And then all of you grows, all of you expands, all of you becomes more, and we grow into the person that we most want to be. All right, so that is phase 3 intro, and that is it for day 15. We are going to be coming back with a whole bunch of other things that are important in phase 3, ways that we can move forward, other things to consider that often get in our way, but I won't ruin it for you. That's up and coming. Have a wonderful day. Love you guys so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for coming out to hang with us on the podcast. It is our goal to transform the way women are treated in healthcare, and we need your help. We need your help to get the word out. We have a lofty goal of 1 million downloads, and we know that as this podcast grows, we're going to be able to reach more women, get more amazing speakers for you, and bring the most cutting-edge information.
If you found these pod classes helpful, please take a moment to text 5 women you know the link to the series. We appreciate your help so much. Can't wait to see you next time.